Oh my God.
Hello, everyone. One second. And there we are. And there we are. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Darachat. My name is Daramouthe, or Dara for short. And of course, camera wasn't working on the studio's end, so I used my good old favorite Brave Call. Yes, Brave Call, because that's a good last resort to use. But anyway, thank you all for being here. I have on a wonderful Englishman guest. How do you say? Is it the full RyanRogerAthay, or how do you say it?
Well, to be reality-based for a moment, hopefully you can all hear me. Otherwise, this show is a complete fuck-up. First of all, that intro was fucking mental. I've been on hundreds of shows, different shows, and that would have to be the most crazy of the bunch. First of all, I'm Welsh, not English. I know I sound English, but I'm actually Welsh.
Okay.
And number two, yes, it is RyanRogerAthay. I am the host and founder of Reality Based, and hopefully what I am saying is in sync with how you see me.
Yeah, you're pretty good so far. I mean, no interruptions in the internet. Yeah, that's pretty interesting, because again, I had a few German people on Smoo, and I thought he was English at first, but then he corrected me. He was like, "Oh, so you're German? Oh, okay," because you sound a little close there. But Wales is right over there by where it's up. It's way above London, but it's situated over in that side area. That's not too. It's more closer to Ireland, I believe.
Hmm.
But I don't know my geography as much as I'd like to. But anyway, but thank you for coming on because, as I've said before to others, I've been on your show a few times.
Mhm.
But you do things a little differently than I do, which is you
Mhm.
have a very topic filled show, mostly just talking about the stuff of today, and you go crazy with a whole bunch of other stuff. But you've also done stuff like your creator, the you bringing on creators one too, which I recently saw, which has been pretty interesting.
Hmm.
Because the gentleman was telling me about Tomby, he's been doing his own thing for that as well, and the creator spotlight. He does that on Sundays. For those who don't know, but um, before that, before he was doing that, I was doing my pay it forward stream, which I do. I multi-stream too, but I do on the Rumble end because I can do more through Rumble than I can through YouTube. In order to get the same amount of word characters that I can on Rumble, I'd have to pay $20 to get it on YouTube. So where I can do more with $2 than I can with 20. So yeah, but yeah, he told me that was what inspired him to do his creators
Mm.
spotlight, and yeah, it has been pretty interesting. So when he does his Sunday, I do mine Friday, which would be Friday at 7 p.m., which would be five. Yeah, so it'd be about midnight your time, I believe, because you're 5 hours ahead of me. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, and you usually do your show during what was it like 8 or 9 your time?
Yeah, 9 p.m. UK time, which is usually 4 p.m. Eastern, and I
Yes.
try my best to be as regular as I can in terms of videos and in terms of shows.
Mm,
As I always like to say, keep on going, keep on growing, and it's
mm,
always great to be on an American show, especially when they don't know geography. I mean, you guys couldn't find Ukraine on a map, but you're certainly sending them lots of money. But it's great to be here, folks. Hopefully, you enjoyed the show,
mm.
whether it's live, on replay,
Yeah.
or who knows, we might just cut this show up and turn it into timestamps. But
Mm.
nah,
I
I'll just
make
relax.
yeah, I make for the people I've had on, I make I for the streams, I take them and make shorts out of them. So
Mm,
for because I use a program called Opus.pro, which you can only go up. I think the term is you can only go up to like 3 hours total,
mhm.
because that's the allowance they have, and of course it uses AI to capture stuff or whatnot. Um, I'd be able to show, but I can't because I'm already using the thing for this. But it allows you to. It uses AI, but you still have to do the 10% of the work. So you still have to do the editing. You still have to go in, but it's a live action tool right there. Like you can cut and split and all that stuff uh,
Mm.
in there. So yeah, it's a pretty interesting tool to use. When I first started using it, it was just take whatever the AI gives you. But now I'm sort of kind of focusing on like what how does this look, just trying to make it seem a little better, but I'm no editor. I'm just I'm just doing this thing. So,
Well, it's better to work. It's better to work smarter rather than harder. That's why the core of what I do as a content creator
mhm,
is you make videos, you make shows, and you make videos from shows, whether you're
mm,
hosting or guesting, as long as the hosts of said shows don't use it themselves.
mm.
It's well, free game, as it were.
That's
Mm.
true. Yeah, I do try when I do make the shorts from the streams, I do try to put all of our information in it because it's sort of my way of paying back. Even if the guest doesn't ever come back on again, I at least get them the one time, and that has happened. So it is what it is. But it's just in paying back, and that not everyone I've had on is a creator. Some people are just regular people of sorts. Some people are just followers of other content creators, and it's been an interesting. Yeah, it's been an interesting thing. I try to make a wide arena. I Yes, a bunch of the people I've had on are a bit of creators in their own rights, more or
Mhm.
less. But most of my communication is done through Twitter X, which is how I got communicate through you and others. So it is what it is. But I have had on many who are not creators, and yeah, that's what I'm going for. Just having conversations with just about anyone. So, because kind of in the time of what would we call it? It's kind of a time of division where everyone wants to fight about something, but no one's really willing to sit at the table and just have a discussion about whatever. And I think that's a big chunk of what's missing. Not to say anything against those who
Mhm.
do what you or Tommy or like Nerdrotics, whatever they do. But at the end of the day, it's a lot of people that have follows using Nerdrotics as an example. There's a lot of people that follow
Mhm.
you, and having someone come on from that whole list of people would be an interesting rather than just the same circle. You know, but that's
Well, I've always found that the vast majority of people who support, especially prominent creators,
mm,
support the topic first, then the creator second. And when someone is dedicated, when they're consistent,
mm,
when they speak truth to power, when they're able to highlight the problem, then they gain the trust of the people. That's why as content creators that seem to be the most prominent
mm,
and resonate with the most people
right.
really do highlight the problem very, very well.
Mm,
And if there was no problem to highlight, a lot of the prominent creators you see today, especially the pop culture ones,
yeah.
wouldn't have nearly the support base that they currently have,
Mm,
which it just goes to show that there are millions of people out there, whether it's in the United States or the UK or across the Western world,
mm,
who see these problems
mm,
mounting across their societies, and they need outlets. And highlighting the problem is a good first step. Then you find solutions through gathering like-minded people together, and we're seeing that more and more. Then you be the change you want to see. That's
yeah.
why general discussions usually don't get anywhere near the viewership as topical discussions. But
Mm,
creators learn and develop over time, and they learn from past mistakes, or they learn from fellow creators who have, say, resonated with more people. It takes all sorts to be a content creator. If you're used to staying under the radar, that's perfectly fine. But if
mm,
you can really resonate with people, you can go from nowhere to everywhere and actually do pretty well for yourself.
yeah.
If you don't go batshit crazy, or if you're not killed by a foreign government. I've actually seen an experience of a content that happening to a content creator. So there are many highs and many lows
Mm,
to what's done in this profession, for
sphere.
lack of a better term.
Yeah.
But yeah, it can be great, but it can also be hellish.
Yeah. Well, and part of that, in the States, there have been stories of, content creators getting swatted and stuff too. So you do have that where people will use the law enforcement against those people for no apparent reason or whatever. And I've seen one too many of that. But at the end of the day, it's just something you take a risk on because
Mm.
whatever you find, whether it be gaming, whether it be DIY stuff, which there is, or politics, whatever, you find a thing you enjoy, you keep going with it. And you find out what you want to do with it rather than trying to go along with what will get you the most of anything, because then what does content creation come? Hey, horror, how you doing, good sir?
Mm.
But at the end of it, content creation is what you want to have out of it, rather than as some would, at least some of those big like YouTubers and stuff, of chasing the algorithm, because chasing the algorithm usually leads to like burnout or whatever, or at least some of what I've seen usually leads to burnout. Or if you're a gamer playing 24/7 or something like that, there's always something that if you strain yourself too far beyond the scope, you will eventually burn out. And you do see a lot of those people who just,
Mm.
yeah, give up after a certain point. But again, I do this because I enjoy the fact I get to meet all sorts of different people. And sure, yeah, I talk on a general basis of you don't know what it's going to be, but at the end of the day, I enjoy doing it. Everything else beyond that scope is a bonus. And for me, the people I've met through, people like Tommy or Jack Tarlet,
Mhm.
whatever, through both ends, my even my growth, whether it be, be deemed small by others or not. The point is not that. The point is, okay, so who do I get to meet today? That's the point. Everything else, again, like I said, is a bonus. So, but I enjoy all the same, and other content creators seem to enjoy how they do it too, and that's great. You want to create the content you want to enjoy to create, rather than just chase some dollar signs or whatever, because there are some people like that out there, unfortunately.
Hmm.
Twitch has those on there too.
What an awful platform. Thankfully, more and more people are realizing just how bad Twitch is as a platform, and that they only exist because Amazon props them up financially. But I've personally found, as a content creator who first made a name for himself
Mm,
with suggestion videos, with Rising Stars videos, highlighting those who would go far as a rising star.
yeah.
I found that there are nowhere near enough content creators out there who make names for themselves analyzing what
Mhm.
we do.
Right.
Now, there are plenty of folks out there that analyze what it takes to become a prominent creator,
Yeah.
because you
Yeah.
can build an audience off of
Hmm.
that, of up and comers who want to do well and become prominent. But no one really studies or talks about the nature of what we do as content creators, or the nature of what we do as live streamers, because what this is,
Mm,
what we've been doing as a group
yeah.
is not even 20 years old as a thing, as a
Yeah.
profession,
Yeah.
which means, as a result, we're sort of making it up as we go along, seeing what works, what doesn't work. There's no written rule book to what content creators and live streamers can do. You've got the wholesome types, you've got the controversial types,
Yep.
and you've got the people who will do whatever it takes,
Hmm.
and there are those who have a good time of it, and then when they're not having such a good time, they fade away into the background. And
Right.
that's why I think it's very important to analyze what works, what doesn't work. And I'm very thankful of the many hundreds of content creators that I've analyzed over the past few years. I've managed to meet most of them,
Hmm.
and I have a seat at the table of quite a few established channels and groups,
Hmm.
and one or two prominent channels and groups as well.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, again, it's all about of what you want to aim for in this, and everybody's different on that aspect
Mhm.
of the what. Um, and that's okay in that matter, because you shouldn't listen to me or anyone who talks about it's just, if you want to create the content, create it. Everything else is sort of trial and error. Like for me, I have to, when I'm making shorts or whatever, when I first started making shorts using Opus.Pro to now, it was just sort of take it and go. And now I'm spending a little more time on the short, trying to make it at least look a little more better or whatever. Even though I still ask for an opinion from other people I've had on, because uh, being the connection with others who may know a certain thing or two about stuff, is pretty awesome. But you do kind of see your own trial and tribulation, where you kind of are competing against yourself, right? You can forget about the other content creators. Sometimes at some point you are competing against yourself or your past self, because you're trying to learn how it goes, like you say, and do all these things. And whether you find that golden ticket or not is up to you. But um, again, the field is yours to take, and how you wish to
Hmm.
do it, rather than just see. You could go to YouTube to see how to do videos and all that stuff. This is how you become a content creator. This is how you. And he's like, "Are you sure about that?"
I mean, I can only speak from my own experience, Dara, but I have found that those who don't throw everything at this starting out aren't going to make it, and aren't going to make a name for themselves. It isn't easy being a content creator. There are those creators who have a fantastic start
Uh,
and then just stagnate and bleed out and fade away. And
mm,
there are those content creators who do it for years after years after years. And they're very talented, but they don't get the recognition that they deserve. And because there's no real outlet for seeing well, what works, what doesn't work,
Mm,
what perspectives should we take. There's not really an art to what we do.
right.
There's not really discussions and debates about the nature of content creation or live streaming. Because
Right.
let's face it, barely anyone would watch it because it's not a pressing topic of the day. It's quite an opaque topic, if
Mm,
you think about it. Something that you can't really grab and grasp. You have to discover it in a sense. And
right.
when you're in a fog, it's hard to discover things. That's why
Mm,
I think it's very important, from my own perspective, to take the best pieces of fine folks and fellow creators and try to incorporate that into reality based. And I've tried my best. Thankfully, I've kept on going and kept on growing. But
yeah.
other fine folks and fellow creators have done it quicker and faster.
Yeah. Yeah, everyone is, I would think everyone is different in that regard of how they go about it. I mean, obviously, you can play, again, like I said, the algorithm game, which is you just pick the things that will get picked by the, YouTube's algorithm and then play that way. Or, it's not what you know, who you know, sort of thing.
Mhm,
It
mhm,
varies far and wide, but just from my aspect alone, I've seen a lot of content. Well, you either see like,
mhm,
there's these VTubers or some other fact where, they have a come to point like I'm not growing or I'm not getting enough views or what have you.
mhm,
And then you kind of, I kind of asked like, okay, so why are you even creating in the first place? What are you doing with this thing? Why do you want to even do this thing? And I think that's a great place where some people have to start is when they get discouraged by I'm not at that 1,000 people marker, I'm not getting 1,000 views or whatever. The question becomes is okay, so why are you even creating in the first place? If the more important faction to you for use the views and stuff, yes, I can understand that. But at the end of the day, though, that comes in the question of why you even creating. Because if you're creating to essentially just to grab and keep that part, but then you fail at enjoying what you're doing, then I don't
mhm.
know what to tell you. At that point, you might as well just fade in the wind, like you said, for some do. Um,
Well, yes, yeah. I mean, from my own perspective, I have seen content creators who have started out around the same time as myself,
mm,
and who have barely grown and barely resonated
mm,
enough to justify the continuation of what they do. I mean, from my own experience,
mm,
structure is absolutely vital.
mm,
Scheduling is very important, and the need to constantly adapt and to develop
mm,
is also important, not just as a creator but also as a person too. I mean, there was a time when I was lackluster, especially when starting my second run as a content creator, because my
ooh,
first run was a bit of a busted flush,
ooh,
then becoming much more wholesome after being lackluster,
mhm,
and then after reaching certain milestones, you get comfortable,
yeah,
get relaxed. You
mm,
you you are more in step,
yeah,
as it were. And then that led me to be a bit more controversial, and it led me to be reality based. I know it's very small, folks. You'd have to have very good eyesight to see that, but that does say reality based. And we're getting to a point, folks,
mm,
where I don't know, maybe I should be more wholesome or maybe I should be more controversial. And that's not just for me, folks,
mm,
that's for pop culture content creators as a whole.
mm,
We're at a crossroads now, especially where we see the disease of wokeness being exposed by all sorts of people, from the moderate of the moderates to the
right,
most extreme of the extremes. We're now at a crossroads.
yeah,
Should we be wholesome, moderate, reformist types,
mm,
or should we be unleashed in a sense and go all in against these crazy bastards and all in on the changes that these lunatics have made
right,
in recent years.
yeah, and that is certainly a wall to climb, as one would say
Mm,
it. But if you find it worth enough to do so, you might as
mm,
well, right? Because you only get to live
mm,
once.
mm,
But at the end of the day, though, yeah, it's a whole lot of uh, the advent of pre-recorded video and then live streaming, then of course, adding the shorts, that's been, since YouTube was around 19 years, I believe, so far. And the advent of having a, what is it? I guess they call it video sharing platform, I guess is the term, is expounded the advent of not only sharing knowledge, but say, like, you can go to YouTube and watch a bunch of Harvard um, classes being given, or studies, or some sort of effect, or you can watch again a bunch of people who do DIY or whatever, or showing of goodwill beyond beyond the scope. And it's a vast ocean, don't get me wrong, it is a very vast ocean, but you do find those few, as you say, the creators who have the raft, and you're just you get to come along for that ride, and it's an interesting time, to say the least.
Well, it's also interesting, Dara, that as social media and as content creation has become more mainstream,
Right.
when you compare, say, 2005 to 2024, there's an interesting correlation between the growth of alternative media, the growth of social media, the growth of especially mainstream social media and content creation. That correlation with distrust of the establishment, whether it's in terms of politics or popular culture, you literally see that correlation. Now, there are those folks who say correlation doesn't equal causation, but this is usually my response to that argument. It's a load of wank, because there's such a thing called pattern recognition, folks. And if you recognize patterns, you stay alive, especially in the natural world. So I do like the fact that more and more people are able to speak their minds. We can get more information and more perspectives. But the more of that we get, the less truth we get, and the more opinion we get.
Right.
Getting the truth these days is like getting gold. It's not going to be easy, and it's only going to get more difficult as more perspectives, more information, and more opinion is unleashed, whether it's by people such as myself or yourself, or organizations that have made names for themselves in recent years.
And definitely in that regard is the ability to discern that ability, because again, like you said, there are a lot of opinions and a lot of throwings of truth, as it were, but the ability to discern is also it's a learned skill, because obviously you don't know that from the get-go. It's not like you know how to discern truth from a small child. You kind of have to learn that over time, of how to, as they would say, discern the BS. And the unfortunate side effect is that you do have a lot of people who fall into the category of following the crowd, as it were, because sometimes they don't know how to discern the truth, or maybe they don't want to discern the truth. There's a very varied option in that regard. And it is kind of hard to get gold, but if you know where to look to find gold, you possibly could find gold. The irony of panning for gold, as it were, but there's a lot of different places to do that. But it's not an easy task, but I think people have to learn that ability to discern. Otherwise, they'll end up with information overload, and then you're just got a non-response. There's just no response there.
As someone who's made a name for themselves analyzing content creators, in regards to topics of the day, there are far better content creators to do that than I, although I dabble in it from time to time, especially on panel shows. But as someone who's mostly known for analyzing creators, I can tell you that in this day and age, especially in recent years, he who is popular is right, especially in terms of YouTube for content creation and live streaming, and especially for Twix in regards to social media. That's what I call Twitter/X. I call it Twix, like the chocolate. But we do fall into that. We do fall into that trap, Dara, of he or she who is popular is right, and that is a side effect of the democratic world we live in, where if you have the most support, you will get the power. And if that's true of our everyday world, why shouldn't it be true for content creators and live streamers, whether they're correct and truthful or whether they're so good they should work for CNN? I mean, there are plenty of examples of content creators who are very prominent,
Right.
but who mix information and entertainment together,
Uh-huh.
and they're not fucking journalists,
Yeah.
folks. And yes, sometimes I do swear. They're not journalists, and they release stories and they release videos or maybe articles that aren't exactly truthful, but they push a narrative and they are entertaining. That's why I personally think, Dara, the days of journalism are over. The term journalism is a slur. And I personally believe now that the more opinions and the more perspectives we get, the better, because then we will be able to find the truth from said perspectives, cover every angle, that sort of thing. Trying to discern the truth from a small amount of information or opinion isn't the way to do things anymore. Why? Because there's so much information out there that it is getting more and more difficult to find the truth and to differentiate it from artificially created sources that look like the genuine article. That's why perspectives are very important.
Yeah, getting the multiple angle of what's being said versus not what's being said, but to know what's not being said is being a mind reader in itself. So that's something in its own right. But yeah, the saying of it's a very confusing place is true, but it's also unrelenting, can be disastrous, can be monstrous, can be a burden of just trying to make it to live, so to speak. But at the end of the day, though, I think I think people will just have to grow to learn how to discern for themselves, or at least um, figure out that modus operandi, where they can just get past that point. Because you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, and that's the issue with the majority of stuff. Is you can say journalism is dead to a degree, because why? Well, we all saw what happened with when Twitter X, that's what I call it, Twitter X went monetization, right? Once it started doing the monetization, you had a lot of bait engagement posts. So how do we know that some of those journalists aren't doing the same sort of thing? How do we know that the same can be with content creators too. There's no inference too far apart. But once money becomes part of the value system of why to create, then you start have to ask yourself, are they creating because they want to tell the truth, or are they creating because they do? And money is just a side effect of the manner of why they do it. There has to be that discussion, because again, like I said with Twitter X, once they started the monetization factor, you saw tons and tons, and still people, right? You see a lot of posts being made of, oh, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? It's just all questions and no flavor to it. It's more of just like, can you tell me what your flavor is, and I'll stay bland for you. And that's basically what that stuff is.
Structure, I think, is very important. And this is where I conflict a lot with the more libertarian-minded individuals, because let's face it, folks, most libertarians are American. There are some in Europe, but outside the Western world, there are very few libertarians, mostly because a libertarian society in, say, the second or the third world is chaos. It's literal chaos where people are eating each other. And you see that a lot in Haiti, Liberia, or Springfield, Ohio, to name but a few. But in all seriousness, folks, you need structure. This is why we had institutions of power, to be able to separate truth from falsehood. And that's why, in the West at least, we had high trust societies with strong institutions that people believed in. And without that bond of trust, and without that trust in institutions, that's why things are collapsing. Just like an old structure, when its foundations are rotten to the core, of course it's going to fall down.
Right.
I wish that were the case with our existing systems, be it in popular culture or the political realm.
Right.
But the problem is, they're so big that they cannot fall. They're like the emperor of mankind.
Mm,
They're so strong that even in death, he cannot die. Just like our institutions, we need new structures, folks,
mm,
in both sides of our culture.
mm,
If we don't get that, we're going to continue living in this zombie state where the establishment isn't fit for purpose, but this alliance of alternatives that opposes it
mm.
doesn't have the power to bring it down. It's like you can see the building is structurally unfit,
Yeah,
but you don't have the means. You have the will to
yeah,
do it.
well,
You
yeah,
just don't have the means to not only bring it down but
mm,
build a new structure.
yeah,
I mean, try building institutions, try building a media system, try building an educational system or a health-based
yeah,
system, the building blocks of civilization,
mm,
when you're just a ragtag group of content creators with scattered supporters all across the world.
yeah.
It would be a massive challenge, but if we don't live up to that challenge, then we're going to be in this endless culture war for the rest of our existence as our world slowly circles the drain.
And I think some people are okay with that because they, especially when it comes to the governmental side and changing stuff or state or whatever you want to call it, changing stuff for the
Mm,
better. You will see people complain about things, but to
mm,
make change is a different aspect. It make change requires an action, and obviously a lot of people will, they'll stand up, they'll complain, they'll say something, and then they'll go back homes and try to make it through the day again. There is a, like you say, a zombification, more like it's just trying to retain the status quo, which is basically just have a baseline of just straight across rather than just disturbance like a seismograph. um, but I think there's also a comfortability range where people get too comfortable within, they get sedentary, they get comfortable, they get in a relaxed state that they, something comes up and I'll say something and you kind of get back to that relaxed state and you just keep going on. And I think that's where, if you want to talk about the governmental stuff or whatnot, that's mostly based upon the people allowing it to happen rather than anything else. And for letting it go that long, look, there's a runaway train and you had time to stop it at one point and then you just let it keep going. And that's pretty much, it's like the scene in the Back to the Future, right? Train eventually went over the cliff, so, or off the bridge, sorry, it went off the bridge. Sooner or later it's gonna hit that end.
Now, that's why I personally believe structure is very important. And I always start off with my shows, ladies and gentlemen. So when you have a structure, of course, you have the little introduction, to bring the show in. Nice theme music and nice little picture or moving pictures.
Mm.
Dara's intro was just crazy, man. I've never seen anything
I'll go
like
for
that.
yeah.
My goodness. And then you have, the meet and greet, interact with the chat if anyone turns up, that is.
Mm.
And then you catch up with the host and the guest, that sort of thing. Then you move on. If it's a panel show, you move on to topics of the day
Yeah,
because they are topical and people want to hear different perspectives.
yeah.
So if you're meeting someone for the first time, in my case, it's creator origins, creator highlights, the
Hmm.
5 great foes of a content creator, which is scheduling, channel suppression, hostile creative factions, the price of success and failure,
Hmm.
as well as consistency and dedication.
Yep.
Then, if we have the time, we move to topics of the day. Then we go to future plans, have a solid conclusion. And that structure has allowed reality based in the many shows we've had,
Hmm.
whether they're the main show or the variant shows, depending on the topic. That's
Yeah.
how that has carried on for so long. So if that can be applied to a channel,
Uh,
that can certainly be applied to a community,
hmm.
and it can be applied to a state or a country.
Yeah.
Beginning, middle, end. Problem, solution, be the change you want to see.
Hmm.
And then once the problem is solved, you move on to the next problem.
Right.
And then we don't have to deal with all these endless bloody problems.
Yeah, you're gonna have endless problems no matter what because if you really want to get down to it, good and evil's not going to be something that's just going to go away because you solved one side of the equation. It just never goes. Humanity is part of that equation, and people do good or evil depend on on their motive, context, whatever you may have it. At the end of the day, though, for saying in like the resolving of a state or on a federal or rural based level, that's going to require a bit of work, because I think people have to be jumped out of that comfortability. And of course, there are points where they can't really do anything because their hands are tied between, if you have a family, you're taking care of family, you're trying to feed your family and all that stuff. And the only point you could do to is if you were pushed to the point that you were had to be forced to. Otherwise, you're going to try to just do your best to stay within the lines, as it were, right? You know, in a coloring book, some kids would stay in with the lines, some would draw all over the place. You know, grass is brown and sky is green and all that sort of and all that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, people have to make a choice for themselves, and then beyond that scope, right? If you want to solve a problem, you get up to figure out how to solve that problem. If you want to be the change you wish to see in the world, okay, so what is the change you want to see, and go from there. You almost sometimes have to reverse engineer a problem to get started, because sometimes people get so what's the term? People get so demoralized by the mountain they think they see, rather than just, okay, so this is a problem, how do we go about it? And that can happen a lot of times, no matter what the context of ratio is.
And that's why, to me at least, Dara, that's why taking it to the limit, being extreme, I mean, the second season of Reality Based is nearing its end, but it is called Reality Based Extreme. It's like doing whatever it takes. I mean, you see a problem. I mean, the 3 steps to victory: highlight the problem, find the solution, be the change you want to see. You could say the problem is the mountain. And what's the solution? Walk. One step at a time. Keep on going, keep on growing, and you'll go far as a rising star, both as a creator and as a person too. As someone who has studied the nature of what we fine folks do, I have, quite terrifyingly found out that there's a lot of parallels between content creation, live streaming, and people's everyday lives. I mean, the 5 great foes. I mean, the first is scheduling, balancing work, life, family, video making, hosting shows, being on shows as a guest. It's interesting how that parallels with the scheduling of your life. And the fact that so few people actually do that. And no wonder you seem to be stuck in a loop that you're never getting out of.
Yeah.
Because you haven't managed your schedule. And then you've got the second great foe, channel suppression. Especially if you're controversial, folks, especially if you're speaking truth to power. Likewise in the real world. If you criticize the existing system, whether it's the political system, the economic system, or in the space I've analyzed the most, the pop culture system, you are going to get suppressed and you are going to get criticized. And then you've got the third great foe, which is hostile creative factions, creators at each other's throats. And you see that in the real world as well. With people not being fans of one another, whether it's in the local community, whether it's in the workplace, or whether it's between, sports teams. As another example. That's probably a great example of that. Then you've got the fourth great foe, which is the price of success and failure. But in the real world, most people don't really get that far. They feel the price of failure a lot more than the price of success. And the fifth great foe, which no one can beat, is consistency and dedication, because it's a continuous process, like the history of humanity. It never stops. So that parallel between the 5 great foes of a content creator and the great foes you face in your life was something that terrified me when I first discovered it. And it just goes to show that if we can find the solutions in regards to the problems for content creators, if that can happen in the digital world, why not bring it into the physical world? I mean, it is, or we are rather, a quarter of a century into the 21st century, and we're still thinking with, at best, a mid-20th century mindset, or at worst, a late 19th century mindset, especially in schools.
Right.
You've got classrooms, you've got desks, you've got teacher, you've got students, based on the factory model of the late 19th century.
Yeah. Yep.
And you wouldn't drive a 19th century car
Yeah.
in this day and age, or one of those big 19th century bikes with the big wheel
Yeah.
on the front, the little one on the back.
Yep.
If you wanted to ride a bike, well, why do we do that with our education system? Why do we use a 20th century model for our healthcare system? And for the UK, NHS, state healthcare goes as far back as the late 1940s. With you Americans, with your healthcare systems, I'm sure that was at least a 20th century mindset, maybe a bit earlier on. But the point is, folks, why are we using outdated systems in this day and age? Why haven't we innovated? Why haven't we evolved? And that's because, in my view, the institutions of power, whether it's in the political realm or in popular culture, came to be in, say, the 18th, 19th century, for the most part.
Right.
America's a great example of this. Became very strong in the late 19th, early 20th centuries, and have basically kept that ever since, with a few changes here and there, especially in regards to rampantly expanding military budget, especially for you Americans. But the point is, folks, we are using outdated systems to power our current era, and that's not going to work. Even without all the woke bullshit, it would eventually collapse. All wokeness is the legacy of a foreign agent, that being communism from the East, infecting our societies in the West, hastening a demise that would happen, but just at a later date.
Right.
In my view. That's why it's very important, folks, for ordinary people to speak their minds, speak truth to power, to highlight problems, to find solutions through highlighting problems by gathering together as like-minded people, then to be the change you want to see, because that's exactly how the American Revolution happened.
Right. Yeah, and especially with outdated systems, I've been following a gentleman who talks. He had mentioned that we are, for the school part at least, he mentioned that we were training kids on a system that was made for, 50s and 60s, or we were training kids in the system that there is no longer an economy for, or something to that wording. And it's true, because again, times have changed. It's the same way with governments, right? Like, governments have sort of run in the same, what we call it, running program for the past however many 100 years you want to. The point of the matter is, though, is that as people change and the technology changes, so does the modus operandi of how, you take the whole debate with the AI stuff, right? There are a lot of people are, for in some way, and some will abuse and use it, and then there's others of against it. And while both sides can be understanding, the problem of it is, though, is that you can't really put that genie back in the bottle anymore. It's too late. It's done for you. The door's been opened. The genie's out. Pandora's box is flown out to the rest of the world. There's no way you can go back. And while I can understand of both ends, the problem of it is, though, is that what else are you going to do? You can't really say much against. You can try. I mean, you can try. What is it, like Rage Against the Machine or whatever? But technology didn't get to be where it is without it having to go against people who, like, the first time a car went out, I bet you there were a lot of people who had horse and buggy who said, nah, this thing won't go forward or whatever. Or the steam engine, right? We had these technologies that grew up and changed parts of the world, and there are probably a lot of people against that too. At the end of the day, though, there's some things you just have to accept to move on and figure out how to work with that, because I don't know what to tell you.
I can tell you this, Dara. I mean, in terms of development for the Western world, the first world, let's just boil it down to the US and the UK, because the vast majority of people who will probably watch this show are English-speaking people. Since the 1980s, we have gone from industry to services to the digital economy.
Right.
right? So the industrial economy, the service economy, and the digital economy.
Yeah.
3 ages in the span of what, 44 years?
About right.
That's a lot of change in a very short period of time.
Yeah.
Considering the agricultural revolution started, I believe, in the 1700s. The industrial revolution, the first industrial revolution,
Right.
happened in the 18 and 1900, well, 1800s, early 1900s.
Yeah.
And then the age of industry ended, certainly in the UK in the 1980s. I think for the US it ended in the 1990s with the whole NAFTA thing and
Yeah.
the Rust Belt starting to develop. So it just goes to show 2 ages in what, 400 years from start to finish?
Right. Yeah.
And we have gone from the second age, industry, to what, the fourth age, digital, in
Yes.
44 years. That is like a car going as fast as it can with a brick on the accelerator
Yeah.
while the brakes have been cut. What do you think the ending is going to be for that hypothetical car?
Well, eventually you either hit water or hit something solid. So, technically,
Yeah, it's going to hit something and it's going to die. If we keep on going, we're going to die or kill ourselves.
Right.
And we've had the technology to do that at least since 1945. So the fact that we're still around nearly 80 years after the first atomic bomb drop, I think is a goddamn miracle.
Yeah.
But the point is you were making, Dar, is that, we can't stop the progress of change. Well, I'm sure you could have said in Springfield, Ohio, well, you can't eat cats, dogs, and geese. But somehow people found a fucking way to do it. So if they can find a way to do something crazy, maybe we could all stop, catch a breath and live a generation or two figuring out how all this stuff works.
Right.
Before moving on to the next age. And it would be difficult to do in terms of the whole world.
Yeah.
But it's not impossible. I mean, if America led the charge, considering its military might, it might just be able to do it to everyone, or at least every part of the world that doesn't have a nuclear weapon.
Right.
The point is, though, the power is in the people's hands at the end of the day. If you want to stop, then stop. If you want to go, then go. It is entirely up to you. You are the dictator of your own destiny. That's my view.
Well, being a dictator is. No, I was gonna try to make a joke of that, but anyway, yeah, no, it's a choice. Again, like just as much as what you do in life is a choice. Life itself is the choice, and you've already heard the stories of all the maid and all those certain things. But at the end of the day, though, I think people just have to make a choice, and what they choose is going to have to be on them, and how they're going to go about it is going to be on them. Because I'm sorry to tell you, your parents can only give you so much advice before you have to make the adult choice, and that is which direction you go. It's sort of the that ending scene in Castaway where you have Tom Hanks' character stuck in the crossroad, and he's trying to figure out which way he should go. He just got back from giving those skates to the lady. Now he's at a crossroads, and it ends there. He doesn't know where he's left to go. So that's where most people are, I would think. I mean, especially for me, when I was, for the content creator stuff, when I was trying to figure out what to do, I did like pre-recorded videos of like movie reviews or talking about stuff in the day or whatever. And then I tried gaming, tried to do like recorded gaming, live streaming gaming, and all that stuff. Went through different, streaming stuff to use. But at the end of the day, though, once I hit on the conversational aspect with the people, I was like, that was the thing, right? You as an adult have to find your spot in the world, and that means trying different things, right? You have to try different things which you find you enjoy, keep doing it. So once I found on the conversational aspect, I didn't get to over 100 different people by just nothing. It didn't happen overnight. Actually, it's been maybe around a year or so. but I mean, you just gotta try and see, and what you'll find may surprise you. And I think that's what people tend to forget as well. Is they forget to surprise themselves. Same with as in like children, right? As in children, we have this sense of wonderment, right? We have the sense of
Mhm.
the moon and this and all that stuff beyond. As an adult, you kind of just like, to some degree, not all adults, but a majority of adults tend to forget the wonderment and the living faction and all that stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of choices to be made, and um, especially if you come talking about the governmental aspect. I'm sorry to tell you, voting's not going to change very much. It's
That's why most of human history has been run by tyrannies and not by democracies. I fundamentally believe, Dara, especially in the second and the third world,
mm,
the people cannot control their own destinies.
mm,
I think Africa as a continent is a great example of people controlling their own destinies, and they're killing each other all the time.
yeah,
I mean, if you want to see a libertarian paradise, it's the African continent.
mm,
Governments are heinously corrupt.
mm,
Law and order does not exist, and people control their own destinies.
mm,
Half of them are trying to feed themselves and then starving children,
mm,
and the other half are killing, raping, and pillaging everything that stands in their way, like the raiders of Fallout,
yeah,
to give you an example there.
oh yeah,
I mean, the triumph of the Western world is the triumph of existing institutions, the
mm,
triumph of trust between people,
mm,
and it did very well for a time.
yeah,
It's now not doing well because those institutions of power have been corrupted, are now being destroyed from within.
mm,
We have infiltrators inside our system. We also have invaders literally invading from outside.
right,
And we are slowly but surely turning into Mordor, to use a Lord of the Rings
yeah,
reference. Because all of our mainstream establishment figures in the political and pop culture realm, they're all wearing the rings, folks. Not literally, but figuratively.
yeah,
Lord of the Rings fans will get the allegory, because that's the latest franchise to get fucked over because of this infestation. And
right,
it is an infestation. It's a disease, and it should be treated like a disease.
mm,
It needs to be highlighted, it needs to be isolated, and it needs to be treated and cured. And if
mm,
you ain't got any time to do that,
yeah,
burn it all down. I mean, the Great Fire of London, 1666.
mm,
A baker shop, a bakery,
mm,
set on fire and destroyed the whole city. Guess what happened, folks? The whole city was gone, but so is the plague. Just like wokeness, we might just have to burn it all down to
uh,
get rid of it.
right. Well, yeah, especially with the bubonic plague, that's nothing to joke at either. But yeah, sometimes the ending answer may be to just start over, burn it
Yeah,
down
and that's
slowly.
why you have this debate between the more moderate reformist types
Mm,
and the more extreme revolutionary types who are just desperate
yeah,
for this existing system to just cease to exist
yeah,
on every single level. And you're seeing that debate between, two great forces who want to make pop culture great again, who want to make Western civilization great again.
mm,
But there are those who believe the system can be reformed.
mm,
There are those who believe the system cannot be reformed. And I personally, living in a part of the world that was abandoned after the age of industry,
yeah,
this system could not fall soon enough. Because talk about a demoralized people,
right.
Dara. I mean, the community that I live in
Uh,
has not been at the focal point of economic power
right.
since the early 1980s.
Mm,
So for 40 years, it has been a disenfranchised, post-industrial, soon to be post-services shithole.
mm-hmm.
Right? We lost plenty of jobs from industry to services.
Right.
We are going to lose far more from services to the digital economy.
Right.
And that's going to either lead to people being pissed off or to people being black-pilled and demoralized. I mean, most of the people who live in my part of the world, they're getting on a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Birth rates are lower than ever.
Mm-hmm.
The people who want to make a better life for themselves leave,
Yeah.
whether it's to England or to the United States, and we are slowly but surely being replaced by towel heads who eat cats.
Well, and again, those people who leave, they're making their choice though, and obviously, you would want people to stay and fight for their arena, but at the end of the day, though, going back hundreds of thousands of years, no one stayed in their one country for too long. They could emigrate elsewhere, not with the same rules, of course. It was way different back then, but at the end of the day, though, you have to make what decisions are best for you, and the rest be darned, because at the end of the day, who's gonna pay your bills, who's gonna feed you, who's gonna clothe you, and all that stuff? It's gonna be you at the end of the day, or me, or whatever. It's gonna be the people for the families or whatnot, and that's the personal choice that you have or you get, because there's either going to be a choice you get to choose or a forced choice that you don't get to choose, and those are ones you want to avoid. But unfortunately, with people in power who abuse it, and the people who give them the power to abuse it, at the end of the day, it's starting to turn into Burning Man, basically. There's the effigy being lit on fire. Some people like, we should put it out, and other people like, no, let's just let it keep burning. What else can I tell you?
I mean, from my own personal perspective, though, Dara, I see the age we are living in as the triumph of the individual.
Mhm.
I mean, away from the collective governance and the collective popular culture.
Mhm.
Speaking from experience based in the United Kingdom,
Right.
I mean, during the age of industry, especially after the Second World War until the early 1980s,
Mhm.
most of our industry was state-run.
Right.
Whether it was by left-wingers or right-wingers, it was state-run, and generations of people, I mean, family generations were literally born and bred where they were born in the same parts of the country,
Mhm.
they were raised in the same parts of the country, they were educated in the same way, and they worked in the same way. You had family lines of people who were coal miners and steel workers
Yep.
and factory workers, that sort of thing. And when that was all destroyed,
Mhm.
in the UK at least, most of it was destroyed
Mhm.
in the 1980s. I mean, you had whole areas of the UK that were post-industrial wastelands, generational lines broken
Mhm.
and subsidized through the welfare state to stop them rising up and burning the system to the ground that had robbed them of their livelihoods.
Mhm.
And that was the post-war consensus shattered for them, and we saw the transition from industry to services,
Mhm.
and it led to less jobs and less economic growth. And from services to the digital economy, it's going to lead to less jobs. Excuse me. Less jobs,
Right.
and also less work, and economic growth
Yeah.
and productivity too.
Mhm.
And while other parts of the world, especially in the second world, Russia, China, India,
Yeah.
I mean, they're in their age of industry. In Russia's case, they never stopped
Right.
being an industrial economy, even
Right.
as the Soviet Union fell to pieces.
Right.
But the point is, in their cases, they were either at our level and chose to stay at where they are,
Mhm.
or they're catching up like China and India. It
Mhm.
just goes to show that, we can stop, we can catch our breath, and we can say, oh, this is good. We'll just keep it like this.
Yeah.
But no, we haven't done that in the West, and it has cost a lot of people a lot, economically, socially, and especially culturally,
Mhm.
as we are being slowly but surely replaced by more incompetent, savage monsters.
Mhm.
That once they fulfill their purpose, Dara, they'll be tossed into the sea.
Mhm.
Uh, once we're out of the way.
Yeah, well, and I'd say psychologically too, but that's just or mental, whatever you want to call. But anyway, so at the top of the hour of every hour, I do this thing, which is I set aside some time for us to promote ourselves because it's sort of I know some creators do that thing at the beginning, or they do it at the end, or they do sporadically throughout. But I do it as sort of as a time measure, right? So at times it's that we've been here for an hour, let's take a break and let's promote ourselves and stuff. And so. I have your links down below, but if you want to sell yourself, not in that way, but if you want to sell yourself, the floor is yours.
Well, Dara, women are only good for one thing, and that is prostitution. Hello, everyone. I hope you're all doing well, and it's great to see you all watching today. My name is RyanRogerAthay. I am the host and founder of Reality Based. This is usually how I introduce myself. If there are any technical problems, I do apologize. Hopefully you can all still hear me. I speak my minds on topics and people that I enjoy, and I talk about topics of the day, and I enjoy having great talks with fine folks and fellow creators. You can find me at RyanRogerAthay on all the various social media platforms and video making platforms out there. And fingers crossed you will enjoy what I have to offer. I kind of, go from wholesome to controversial in that sort of mindset. I mean, I am 25 years old. No one believes me when I say that. But I think my downfall as a content creator, Dara, will be the fact that I outlive my audience.
There you go. See, you look old, but you're really young. See, there's the difference right there. But no, when I heard that too, it's like, wow, that is something. But no, that's pretty. I've been told because of the some people get told because they have a baby face that they look young, but they're quite older than the way they look. It's all genetics. At the end of the day, it's all form of genetics. Not that kind of genetics though. That's a more Hitlerish statement. But anyway.
The old contradiction. We're all the same, but somehow we're all different. But I will say that I recently saw a picture of myself when I was 13 years old.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, folks, when I was in school, secondary school, 11 to 16, which was about 9 years ago.
Right.
Yeah, I looked like an adult back then as well. You had the little clip-on ties, because I still to this day can't put on a tie. I have my big glasses, and my beard was starting to grow, and I was 13 years old.
Wow. See, and you could have tried to get in for a pint, but they said show a card, and you said, "Dang it." But
nah, they don't do that. Not in my part of the world. They need all the funds they can get.
There you go. But anyway, for my end of things, whether you're on YouTube or whether you're on Rumble, if you wouldn't, I'm on the floor, so you can't see me. But anyway, if you wouldn't mind leaving a like, a share, sharing the stuff, a comment, or leaving a follow, because again, it's all about engagement.
I'm keeping him down, folks. I'm keeping him down.
Yes, and I'm feeling the compression already. No, because we all know how the engagement thing works, and again, I wouldn't be where I'm at without all the people I've been connecting to and all the people I've had on, because again, my numbers when I didn't think I'd be here with this stuff. So I'm very grateful. But anyway, any help with the engagement is much appreciated, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Rumble, because again, I've talked to over 100 different people, and the ability and opportunity to do that has been profound and amazing. And of course, for Mr. Ryan Roger over here, it's been an awesome time, whether it be here or on his show, which I have been on a few times, which thank you for that. But also, if you want to know where else I'm at, or if you'd like to have the opportunity to come on yourself, there's a link down below amongst with the other ones in the description, whether on YouTube or Rumble. And if you go there, you'll find my Twitter X. I have a DM for Discord. I have an email, and also the links for Rumble or YouTube. But if you want to come on, if you don't want to do any of that, you can just leave a comment on YouTube or Rumble, and we can get started. Because again, October is coming, and I'm trying to get people on, asking for. So I've got a few people so far, but at the end of the day, it's still it's still a work in progress. I don't, I don't have the big name credibility that some other content creators I have, but through the various connections that I've had with many of the people I've had on, there's a network there. So I appreciate and enjoy all those people, and I do different things. Like I've created another show where I bring back on people who've been guests before, and I sort of try to intermingle them with other people who've been guests. And that sort of it's called Dara's Hangout Den, and I just keep it to 4 people because I've seen what happens when you get up to like 9 or 10 different people. There's a conversation there, but it just gets lost into the wind.
You mean you have to fight to speak your mind?
Yes, exactly. And I try and I keep it low because I want it to be a conversation rather than gladiator, right?
I got to do that every Saturday night on Saturday Night Hypnosis. That's why I'm very grateful
Hey, Steve.
when there are less people on that show. It means I don't have to fight as often to speak my mind. I mean, Hypno is a great host. We recently welcomed Smash JT as a solid regular, and I think Hypno has a good balance between pop culture content creators who are reformers,
Yeah.
who want to reform the pop culture establishment to make it great again,
Mhm.
and the revolutionaries who just want it burnt down. Just want it completely burnt down. My goodness. I hope you're a female and not a homosexual.
No,
I know barely anyone's watching us live, which means I can get away with saying all sorts of egregious shit.
no, that's
Get
Steve.
away with it.
He's that's Steve. He's from the UK as well. So because he's been on Tomby stuff. So he's from Tommy's arena or something. Oh yeah, okay, Tomby. Not Tomby, Steve. Okay, Steve. But yeah, no, I've had again coming across Tommy. There've been a lot of different people that have come from that. I've had Yarn Witch. Yarn Witch is from Tomby. DJ Smooth's from Tomby, and a whole bunch of Jack Tarlad led me to Tomby. So there's a line of people that have led one to the other, and that's sort of what this thing has become. Is sort of when one person comes on, there's a ton of people behind them. And again, I wouldn't have had over 100 different people on if I didn't have those connections. And it's wild what conversations get up to, whether they be silly or profound, like this one has been talking about perspectives on making the change or doing the right thing, so to speak, of what you would consider the right thing and so forth. But yeah, I really do enjoy all the people.
Well, at this stage, Dara, all I need is material in terms of topics and in terms of people. That's why I love having great talks with those just starting out or with criminally underrated creators such as yourself, because you provide us a fresh perspective. It's far easier to get folks such as yourself on reality based, and there are some creators who make great guests and okay hosts, and there are some creators who are great hosts but okay guests.
Yeah.
Then you've got to juggle the schedule as well. Some folks you can get on all the time, other folks you can't really get on with very much because of the schedule.
Yeah.
And some folks that you get on relatively well, and there are those folks who you interact with that you get on with a house on fire. But the point is, literally, it is like juggling grenades doing this.
Yep.
I spent a solid year, nearly a year, as just a content creator making videos, my thoughts, suggestion videos, rising stars videos, before I started doing live streams. Why? Because I wanted an established audience before doing live streams, because I didn't want it to be a graveyard, and I didn't want to do this on my own, because I am at my weakest as a live streamer soloing a show. The reality-based Rising Stars shows are proof of that, when I blooper like a fucking lunatic.
But that's where you can have the fun in that too, because even if you do blooper, it's sort of like I wouldn't say it's like America's Funniest Home Videos, because you do get hit in the groin region, but I've done both ends with guests and by myself, and usually sometimes you have chat to kind of help along the way, and I appreciate that. But I started out with barely anything at all. It started out zero, barely anyone watching. And over time, it sort of built into this thing of just meeting people, having them come on. Maybe they only come on once, maybe they come on multiple times, like Jack Tarlett or Tomby themselves. You have a variance of things, and you just try your best with it. I've had many times where I've asked people to come on, and there's sort of delay, right? I can't come this time, or maybe next time, and you keep being persistent, you keep asking, not to the point that you're stalkerish. All right, there's a limit. There is a limit, but until they tell you a definite no, you're like, I have an opportunity. I have the chance. I mean, I did email because I didn't know you could, but I did email Neurotic to see if he'd come on. Now I did have to be a little formal because I'm an unknown to him or whatever. But the point of the matter is I at least am willing to take that chance to say, would you like to come on the show and just have a conversation about whatever? I've done it with a lot of people. People who I've at least I've had one or two people I would consider who are big because I followed them for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, but I networked to Tomby first. Okay, Steve's all right. Just calm it down there. Okay, you're just trying to throw me under the bus. I see it. All right.
Connections are very important, ladies and gentlemen. I think I'm the greatest example of it's not what you know, it's who you know. I mean, knowing lots of people, knowing those who are criminally underrated, those who are creator veterans, those who are established and prominent is very useful. I think my connections would have been way bigger if I had stayed wholesome, because there are quite a few content creators who are a bit risk averse. They don't want to lose what they've gained.
Yeah.
And a great way of losing what they've gained is to have someone who just can't resist being controversial, like myself.
Yeah.
And I do like making people uncomfortable, because it's a great way of separating the wheat from the chaff, the reformers from the revolutionaries, and the ones with a spine with those who do not. That's why I find it funny.
Yeah, and I also think too it's sort of the challenge, right? Because you kind of need to be challenged once in a while, especially within in life you kind of need to be challenged, but in the content creator field you kind of need to be challenged a bit, because if you get stale or stagnant or whatever, it means either you're not being challenged or you need to try something. Yeah, I know it's very lovely. You should comb it, love it, like olive oil in the hair.
Dirty bastard. Why would I put a food product in my hair? You can tell he's an American. He thinks about food constantly.
I'm trying not to. The more we network, the better, I think. Yeah, I know. I get why Tomby is doing his thing with the Creator Spotlight. I do my thing mostly just for the Rumble side, because I'm trying to support more over there, and I can do more over there. But
I mean, that sounds great. Try connecting with 1,000 fellow creators. It'll drive you fucking mad.
1,000 different people. I've accounted to people who aren't creators, people who just do things on the small. There's a gentleman whose name is Happy Mars, and he doesn't create content, but he's on the low end. He sort of does clips for a content creator I've had on, Zatris, and he's a pretty cool dude. And the second time I had him on, his dad had signed in on the YouTube side, and he had started, chatting through there too. So I got to not too much, but I got to speak to his dad a little bit. So there's that sort of faction right there. I'm trying this. For me, it's not about to try to get with 1,000 other content creators, because that's almost anyone. I mean, not almost anyone, but I mean, it's a little easier to do that. But to have people who aren't content creators, the people who kind of look at the content creator thing or coming on a show, whatever, is a bit weird. And I've had many people on who have a bit of anxiety, don't know what to say. They're kind of worried over them, and say, look, I'm the one that has to be relied on for that. You just come on, if I ask a question, you just answer, and if something comes out of that, that's great. That's whatever. Don't worry about it. All the worry is on me. Don't you worry about a thing. That sort of thing. And it's been great. It's been great. So fun so far, because like with olive oil, he crazy. You know what? Tell Jack Tarlett, okay? Tell Jack Tarlett about the olive oil. All right, he's getting a little handsy with that stuff. Oh my goodness, Jack Tarlett. Yeah, it's a bit scandalous. He's a rubbing connoisseur for the ladies, if you catch my drift. But yeah, it's I partly do it for not only meeting new people, but to also get past my own bias, right? Because I think the more perspectives you can connect to and all this stuff, the less you rely on your own bias, which I think is a part of the problem for some people. I mean, it's good to have a solid principles or whatever, but I do think we kind of get wrapped in our own biases, that where we see the fog rather than we can see clearly. And I think more perspectives means you can get a bit better at that, or you can get a bit better at maybe reading people in a way, right? Like how they act or whatever. Like for me, I've had it on a few people who it was like drawing water from stone in a conversation, but sometimes
It's blood.
Blood
From a stone.
Blood from a stone. Yeah, Jack is crazy too on that. I know. Goodness. But the point of the matter is I think that's also the point of where you kind of need that challenge, because it can show like how good is that person under duress? How good are they at making something up on the go, or keeping the conversation, or whatever? How good is this or that? And I think that's the real challenge of as creators. You get either new people on, and like for you, where you have new people on and you're sort of trying to figure out how this is going to go or whatever. Especially, having me on, that certainly was I'm sure that was a challenge in itself. But yeah, I just enjoy this process. I enjoy the people I get to meet, and it's not always a one-time deal either, because dear Lord, humanity's been around for so long that the conversations never have to end. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous.
Exactly. I mean, from my perspective, I mean, there's only one thing. It's reality based. It is a principle. I dare say it's dogma at this point, but that is the mindset. It is to be reality based, where the truth is reality based. I mean, you support reality and you be based in doing so, and that's why I say everyone is welcome on reality based, so long as you are reality based. That's why we've never had a tranny on reality based, because no tranny can be reality based, because they defy biological reality and they are not based at all. I mean, they're insane. That's why we call them tranny demons. And I have been criticized for calling them that. But my response is simple, right? If trans people were people, why are they trans?
Yeah, that's the conundrum of the wording, isn't it? Right? Because we all know what it means. And
exactly.
Jab says, I'm used to that conversation. I don't watch TV, Dara. Only my body is human. I don't know how deep you're trying to go with that, but even if you feel like you're useless at conversation, I am the person to prove you wrong. So remember, that door is open if you want to try that.
Well, not everyone, unfortunately, not everyone is cut out to be a content creator. This can literally drive you mad.
Yes.
And you can be killed.
Yeah.
For speaking your mind a bit too much. I mean, I do have a documented case of a content creator who spoke his mind, spoke truth to power, and got killed as a result. And he was based in the USA. He moved to Ukraine a few years before the war started.
Yeah.
He was a pro-Russian voice in Ukraine.
Interesting.
And the Ukrainian authorities arrested him. Then he escaped to try to flee to Hungary. He failed. They captured him, and then they killed him. Simple. And if it can happen to him in a second world country like Ukraine, likewise with Russia, second world country, very little differentiation between Europe, because they are European people, and most of America is full of European people. So if it can happen to him in that part of the world, it can certainly happen in our parts of the world. That's why it's very important, ladies and gentlemen, to speak your mind, to speak truth to power, and to embody your ancestors who were 1,000 times stronger than we are. And yes, the tranny demons are a paradox.
Yeah.
They defy what it means to be reality based. I mean, if you defy reality, you are definitely not based, and as a result, you can never be reality based. So there you go.
Yeah, and that's kind of true. You go to Ukraine to spout Russia stuff, and it's not highly unlikely that you wouldn't get hit with.
Well, from the Western perspective, I can understand that.
Yeah.
But half of Ukraine's population is Russian speaking.
Really?
Half. Yes.
Wow.
That's one of the main justifications for the supposed Russian invasion, was because the Ukrainians who had gained power, mostly based in Western Ukraine, which is full of actual Ukrainians,
Right.
which is understandable.
Mhm.
They took power in a democratic format,
Mhm.
and they began systematically oppressing and in some cases killing Russian-speaking Ukrainians. So what the fuck is Russia supposed to do? Sit back, relax, and go tickety-boo?
Yeah.
No, they fucking attacked because the people speaking the same language as them were their own people
Mhm.
like 35 years ago,
Yeah.
before the breakup of the Soviet Union. No wonder they invaded.
Yeah. And
No wonder.
what was it? Jabs is a question for you.
Mhm.
He says, I always look at the background, Ryan. I see Star Wars and Doctor Who. Do you see more truth in sci-fi than the local news shows? That's his
You
question.
know, I always like to say the truth is reality based, but more and more it's hard to separate truth from science fiction. My good man, I am a good fan of things like Star Trek, things like Doctor Who, things like Top Gear and the Grand Tour. The Grand Tour recently came to an end, unfortunately,
Yeah.
folks. But that's what happens. You do it for so long, you just want to do other projects now.
Yeah.
And from my own personal perspective, the goal should be to achieve, the science fiction, to achieve the fantasy.
Yeah.
And imagination is one of the key components of innovation. I mean, the idea of the smartphone,
Yep.
where did that come from? It came from Star Trek, for goodness sake.
Yep.
Even the idea of the flip phone came from the original series. I mean, the idea of the starship came from the likes of Star Wars and Star Trek. And now we've got Elon Musk, the greatest African ever, who happens to be white. What does that tell you? Creating or leading a project to create a starship to go first to the moon, which he should do,
Yeah.
and then to Mars,
Yep.
which is I wouldn't call it the end goal because, well, it's just the next stage. That innovation came as a result of an inspiration of imagination, ladies and gentlemen. And I think one of the main reasons why folks, especially folks who want to go into space and chart the stars, the moon's a great starting point, Dara. But the problem is, since they drew up, and by they I mean the international community, drew up an international treaty where no state, I think, could claim the moon as its own. And they might just do that for Mars as well. That really stops us going to the stars, to the moon, to Mars,
Right.
because there are very few, if any, private individuals or private companies that can actually go there, claim the land, set up a colony, and make money, unless they harvest the natural resources.
Yeah.
Space treaties, I think, are the worst things to do in terms of stopping our development from being a multiplanetary species, because governments on Earth don't want us going into space because we'll be outside their field of control. You just imagine it, Dara. It would be like Call of Duty: Infinite Warfare or something.
Right.
You've got Earth versus Mars.
Oh, yeah.
War for the solar system. Big daddy dictator Elon leading his Martian troops to invade Earth or something.
Yeah.
And he might just be crazy enough to do that.
Possibly.
if he was like that. But
Yeah.
in regards to, what is the basis of truth in this day and age, ladies and gentlemen, more and more we've got to pursue what I believe to be a humanity first agenda. Be racist against the machine, stick to what works. I mean, the 20th century was a great century, very bloody, but a great century overall for humanity. And that mindset and that pursuit, I think, should be the way to go. It's not going to be easy, but that kind of mindset in the stars, I think we'd do very well. We'd have a moon base, we'd have a Mars base, we'd have a city on the moon, city on Mars, get the right shielding, and Mars will literally have lots and lots of cities if they can get the bloody shielding right because of all the fucking asteroids. But the point is, ladies and gentlemen, we shouldn't confine ourselves to Earth. We've had the technology since the 70s to go to Mars, Dara. Just like we had the technology to go to the moon in the 60s.
Right.
It stopped simply because the institutions of power don't want us to go beyond where we currently are, because it will make us impossible to control, especially if we can harness all the resources in space. There's a fucking lot of resources, a lot of gold, a lot of raw materials, a lot of metal up there, which could be used to expand humanity and fucking hell, make a bloody Death Star. Considering all the raw materials of the asteroid belt, we could literally build a Death Star. It would be like a modern equivalent of building the pyramids. It would take like hundreds of years, but we could do it.
Right.
It is possible, theoretically.
Theoretically, it's possible, and I think Steve's asking about the gentleman you were talking about for the going from the U.S. to the Ukraine. I think that's who he's asking. That's the Harry.
Oh, that was Gonzalo Lira, Coach Red Pill.
Oh yeah, Coach Red Pill. Yeah, I remember that. And he didn't make it back, as the saying goes. There's a lot of someone better invent the warp drive too. Yeah. well, there's a theory.
The strangest thing is, ladies and gentlemen, if governments could see a profit motive in going to space, we'd have moon bases, we'd have Mars bases, we'd have mining outposts in the asteroid belt. The problem is with space exploration and mining materials in space is that it would cost a heck of a lot to do for the state. And especially in this day and age, resources are getting tight, and we're not at peak efficiency. Okay, it's hard enough. It's hard enough justifying to your own people. Yeah, we're going to set up a moon base, but your fucking roads are still full of shitty potholes. It's hard to justify, ladies and gentlemen. The resources are better spent elsewhere, which is why I think what Elon is doing, and other folks as well, are doing in regards to going into space, going onto the moon, onto Mars, is the way to go. But the idea of doing like an Apollo mission to Mars, I personally think it's kind of stupid.
Right.
I mean, instead of sending, a team there to go there for like a day and then come back, shouldn't be the way to go. You should send, missiles or rockets there to like drop things onto Mars, like the materials there, the rover, the materials, and have them slowly assemble it, like a little base, and do it that way, step by step, so that then they can go up there on their big rocket, land there, stay there for 5 years, and then come back. Because if you can't make that possible, then there's no point going there.
Yeah.
If we're not going to plant our flag there and put something there.
Yeah, exactly. Because it comes down to the first come first serve scenario. I also asked, does humanity have the right to spread elsewhere? They seem to screw up everything they touch. Well, I mean, that's the dichotomy of humanity. There's a good and bad. A tool we create can't do anything on its own accord, but.
If there are no other aliens, folks, say I know this is crazy talk, but say there are no aliens, say it's just us, hypothetically, right? If we just stay here for the rest of our existence, we will be fucked. Eventually, some nutcase is going to press the red button, and we're all going to fucking die. I think what we should do as human beings is do what we're good at doing, which is spreading. I mean, we don't know our origins. We don't really know how we started, so we shouldn't know how we finish, which means we should do whatever the fuck we want. And I think the best thing to do is to follow the American model, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and go out there. just like the pioneers, the same pioneers. I'm going to assume most of the people watching, whether it's live or on the replay, are Americans. Without the pioneers settling, without the settlers settling in what became the 13 colonies, none of you Yankee Doodle dandies would be alive and well today. By going into the stars, being the new settlers, whether it's the moon, Mars, if you want to pursue a suicide mission, Venus, if you want to go and to be the next pioneers, to be the next settlers, then you could be responsible for whole new generations of people who would grow up on the moon, grow up on Mars, grow up, say, on the mining ships of the asteroid belt, and then even further afield, maybe, given enough time, enough centuries, to other solar systems, and be the progenitors of thousands of millions of people. Billions, perhaps even trillions. Even the founders could not comprehend what America is today, and it's been what, 250 years, nearly 150 years since the American Revolution. Who knows where humanity could be in 250 years' time? On multiple planets, hell, even maybe multiple solar systems, just with today's technology available. You mean make the shit big enough, folks, and make the crew lean enough, and you could build starships today that would go very slow, but they'd get there.
It wouldn't.
And that's what we should do. Just like the pioneers and the settlers, the pilgrims, it took them months to go from Europe to America. And they settle, and sometimes they'd make it, sometimes they wouldn't. But that's the goal. They had a goal, they pursued that goal, and they reached that goal. And that's what it takes to be an American. If they can do it, you can too. Same blood, for the most part.
Well, and part of the reason why they did that also was for a religious aspect as well, because they were Puritans, as far as I understand it. And so part of that wanting to move to the New Americas was to get away from all of King George and all that stuff. So part of that was that religious aspect. But you're not wrong in the sense of back in the pioneers days where people would move from the I think it's the East Coast to the West Coast, from, New York to California, because that was largely untapped. And of course, the big boom of gold rush and all that stuff during that period of time as well. New land that had never been touched except by the natives that lived there was a possibility of what could be, right? And of course, there are also as many good stories as there are bad stories with that, right? Many people got injured or, basically destroyed, killed by the Native Americans during that time. But at the end of the day, there was that endearing spirit of exploration and newness of what could be. And I think while you don't have that fully right now with space, you do have that with the online frontier. But even that's limited to the ability to access it, because you have governments who could shut down that possibility if they wanted to, and that's the unfortunate side effect of power and all that stuff. And Steve says humanity always goes where it should not. It will try damn hard to go get there, even if it failed. I compare that to the child trying to reach their hand in the cookie jar, right? They're not supposed to go for the cookie in the cookie jar, but you better learn that they will try to get to that cookie in the cookie jar, unless it's raisin oatmeal. Then forget it. Raisin oatmeal can burn.
And you see this struggle in our world today between the more nationalist minded and the more globalist minded individuals, especially in where does humanity go from the current position? I mean, could you imagine, Dara, each nation state having pieces of the moon or pieces of Mars, or maybe private individuals, private companies having pieces of the solar system? I think one of the globalists' main objectives, despite the fact they are evil bastards who should be stopped at all costs, their end goal is to unite whatever's left of humanity after they mass murder everyone,
Mm.
and then lead a global government over the solar system and decide the fate of humanity into the future.
Yeah.
Whereas I think the more nationalist minded, the more individual minded people
Mm.
and companies and even countries are going to be of the mindset of, well, it's a big universe.
Mm.
We can all have a piece of the big pie,
Mm.
so to speak. And I personally think that's the way it's going to go. We're all going to have to learn, and our successors are going to have to learn
Mm.
that if we are going to take the next step in evolution, we have to adapt to an environment that is hell.
Yeah.
Space is hell.
Yeah.
You go into it as a human being, you will either pop from the inside out or you'll freeze to death.
Yeah.
Both of those are not good, or maybe both. Maybe
Yeah.
both will happen
Yeah.
at once. But the point is, it is a hostile environment.
Right.
Thankfully, there are no alien creatures yet that we have to deal with.
Uh-huh.
So at least that isn't a problem. But the environment is so much more hostile than the new world.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got to have the technical expertise to go there.
Mm-hmm.
You also have to have the motivation to go there and to develop things.
Mm-hmm.
And you also need serious financial backing.
Yep.
To create the colonies necessary that can self-sustain through industry,
Mm-hmm.
I hope, to be able to create the cities necessary to become multi-planetary, like millions of people living on Mars. It's not going to be easy, folks.
No.
But it is possible even with existing technology. It would be like building the pyramids today.
Mm-hmm.
It would be very difficult, very costly,
Mm-hmm.
but it is possible,
Right.
and it would take a long time.
Yeah, the one way I've heard it explained is, sometimes it ends up just being an engineering issue or a mechanical issue where you just have to stop and take a moment to figure out the problem. And Steve, have you ever played Half-Life 2? For some reason, her voice reminds me of Dr. Brain.
Nope.
What he's like. Oh, okay. Well, there you got your answer, Steve. But no, he does say you sound like a in-game character. So there you go. Yeah, I actually got one credit for. There was a game a long time ago, and it was just more of an move around interactive game. It wasn't like fighting or anything, but it's called Cat Interstellar. It's on Steam, and I voiced one of the robots there because the creator was looking for voices, and all that stuff, and so I just went ahead and asked him, like, can I do this, whatever. He's like, yeah, sure. And so I got a voice in that, and I'm pretty sure he's got a bunch of the. I mean, it's completed, it's done. It's really just nothing much, but yeah. So I do have a voicing credit. So there is something. I got one little thing, and that's pretty much it. I've been at least one game, but yeah, I agree. It's a long trudge forward, but then again, humanity's come from wearing loincloths and killing dinosaurs to wearing pants and going against the man-made government. So there's that right there. The giant, the David and Goliath stay the same. It's just they're different aspects of humanity. So the contrast of it all, really. And yeah, it would be nice to go to the moon again because it's been a very long time since we've even been there in the first place. And you'd think you'd want to start there after all these years, because
there's a reason. There's a reason there hasn't been a settlement on the moon. Same reason why there's not a settlement, like a permanent settlement in Antarctica.
Right.
A worldwide international treaty that prevents it.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally think, especially since Elon Musk has been, going against the grain with the political establishment in the US, I really do think an international treaty will be drawn up preventing the colonization of Mars to try and keep humanity on planet Earth, because that's where the establishment has its power. I mean, could you imagine it? A tech trillionaire, because Elon is on track to become a trillionaire, claiming ownership of the moon or the ownership of Mars. That sounds like something a Bond villain would do.
Well,
And based on our science fiction and our fantasy genres, it's not unprecedented for, Earth versus Mars. I mean, that's literally the story of Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. Like, super fascistic military men take over like Mars and declare war on Earth.
right. Well, and I think that's also just the carrying the bigger stake motif, where if you have the money and resources to do it, the the ability to do it is like, if you if you have the power, why not? Why not take up the big stick and be the one to claim things first? Because if no one can stop you, then why would you stop yourself? But then again, there could be a variances of why one wouldn't do it anyway. Uh, oh well, that's fine. I mean, I'm not going to always agree with the people I have on either. But the point of the matter is you just have a conversation about whatever. Um,
My operating system is Windows 11. I have a Chromebook to the right of me that I used to use. Are you a Linux fan by chance? I've been seeing a lot of Linux fans. They love their operating system over there.
Yeah, I tried. I tried to do like learning about it, because I took up taking like learning about computers, IT stuff. But it was I have Windows 11 too, so it's not really that big of a deal. It's more of I compare it to it's Android basically is what Linux is. It's the more open, customizable to what you would like it to be. But not really one of those people that I like to the ability to customize, but I don't need 1,000 bells and whistles to, oh, I'm so free to customize in however which way I want it. I mean, there's if you can put a limit of sorts, you can be free within that range. Or if you want to have, the field is wide and free, you can have that too. But human beings do tend to get over stimulated and over
Mhm.
whatever by having so many choices, because then you just start short circuiting and frying and just like,
Mhm.
what choice should I have, and all that stuff. And that's the at least the part I've learned, is that too many choices and people do not do well. What is he saying? My human operating system does not origin from split up bureaucratic species. Sure, Jabs, sure, but
See,
bureaucratic.
look, a Linux user, clearly an alien life form. I wonder what faction you're part of. The Orcs? Maybe you're one of the Eldar, or heaven forbid, a Tyrannid. My goodness. See, look, some Warhammer 40k references.
Yeah, and I think that game just came out recently, didn't it? The
Yes,
Warhammer.
Space Marine 2. It's doing very well because it's basically a nice shiny game from an era when games were good.
Yeah, and there's been many variances of games for Warhammer. I think there's like Warhammer, was it Vermintide or something like that? Um, and there's been a few other Warhammer games too. Or is it? Yeah, I've not been too much on the Warhammer stuff. It's not my forte, but I have seen the games. I do know that a lot of people enjoy that stuff, whether it be the games, the books, or the miniature models. I know a lot of people paint the miniature models, men and women. And so there's that thing too. But it does offer something of a multi-facet to what creating or whatever in
Hmm.
Warhammer 40k. But that's just what I've seen.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's not my forte. What is Steve says, I learned a bit of Linux from using the Raspberry Pi, but I'm not using it as a main OS. Oh, okay.
Oh, so you haven't become an alien yet. You're like one of those gene stealers. You're slowly turning into an alien. Okay.
Oh, I thought you meant like actual genes. That'd have been a different story.
Yeah, gene stealers. That's how the Tyranids turn non-Tyranids into Tyranids.
Oh, okay. So from more, okay, wait, okay. I've you can tell I've not been up on any of that, but I do know that what was it? There was a story of Henry Cavill was going to do something with Amazon for it, but I haven't heard anything recent on how that's going.
Well, just like every project Henry Cavill is involved in, eventually he gets screwed over.
Well, that is true. He was good as Geralt of Rivia until they started deviating from that manner, but
Until he got screwed over. He was great as Superman until he got screwed over.
yeah.
He was great in every project he's been involved in until he's got screwed over. Henry Cavill, great guy, very nice guy, but not cutthroat enough to be in the industry he is in.
He's very, I would say he's very lore, what is it, lore friendly or something like that. Because he wanted to keep in with the books of The Witcher. He wanted to, the stories of he's wanting to keep in with the, the stuff for Warhammer 40K. And of course with the Superman too, because I'm pretty sure, because there's been many of Superman, starting from George Reeves and going on from there. But he seems to be one of those people who wants to keep within the lore of the world that's already been built, or at least the lore of the character, because he respects that. And many times, like you said, he's been screwed over on that factor. And in the Hollywood industry, it's either you're part of it or you're out of it. And I think, what is it? Matt Damon. No, not Matt Damon. Sorry. Mark Wahlberg. Yeah. Mark Wahlberg is trying to do his own thing with making a studio in Nevada and trying to do all that stuff there. And whether he'll succeed or not, that'll be an interesting thing. But I do know he moved away from all the Hollywood stuff because it is a plague, to be honest. The thought,
it's a disease.
Yeah, a mindset.
It's a disease of which there is no kind cure for. I mean, fire cures all disease. It's just they die.
Yeah. Well, fire of what kind? But
no, actual fire, like physical.
There goes the Hollywood sign.
Talk about Escape from New York, folks. We should call it Escape from, is it Los Angeles or San Francisco? You want to get rid of wokeness in California? Set the entire country or state on fire. Then you'll get rid of it.
It's only the lower half that has the issue. The topper half is mostly forest, I believe. Someone once was telling me. But
where all the fires happen.
Yeah, where all the fires happen. And they seem to want to keep screwing themselves over on that regard. Because
they just yearn to set themselves on fire because they know they're wrong.
And set themselves back to the Stone Age and, turn kids, have human trafficking. At a certain point, I'm going to think it wants to be the center hub of human trafficking for the world because of all those stories and stuff come from that.
I mean, when you really boil everything down, Dara, it's just a question of will and means. I mean, Elon Musk is one of the few examples of a person who has the will and the means to do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
If he wanted to become a Bond villain to hijack a nuke to end the world, he could do that.
Yeah.
And it's not that hard to start a nuclear world war. Rogue nuclear explosion, everyone gets fucking terrified, everyone presses the button, and everyone dies.
Yeah.
But very few people have that kind of position of having the means as well as the will to do as they wish. And it's good to know in Elon's example that he wants us to go into space and wants us to be a multiplanetary species. Just more living proof that the best country in Africa was South Africa. And the best Africans tend to look like me.
Well, and was it Cape Hope or whatever it is? So little light in south of Africa to be hope there.
The Cape of Good Hope, that waterway.
Yeah.
In South Africa on the coast. There's a reason they built the Suez Canal, folks, because all the ships kept sinking on the Cape of Good Hope. So much hope it would kill you. That's why they built the Suez Canal through Egypt.
Goodness. Don't know if you can say the same for the Panama Canal, though. That's a bit of a different story.
Let's take over a country, penetrate straight through it, and we've got a waterway. Hey, if Britain can do it to Egypt, then America can do it to Panama. So there you go.
But the UK did start out as a sort of what would you call the empirical power,
Imperial
imperial power with India and then having Hong Kong and all that stuff. So there was a time where the UK was seen as uh, I would say a superpower in its own right, but
Yes.
it tended to fall out of that after time went on. So. And it is what it is. Kingdoms rise and fall after a certain period of time. Rome did not stay Rome for very long. You eventually got buried by the sands of time, and now they're digging it up and like, ooh, wow.
Well, there's still a Rome.
Yeah, that's true. It's just in ruins. It's
just full of foreigners now.
taking pictures, eating the food, giving them money. All the good stuff.
It's a good job the gays haven't taken over Rome, because they'd call it Ream. Dirty bastard.
And the Colosseum would mean something completely different.
Yes. Yeah, they'd literally rebuild the Colosseum so they could have a stadium, and they'd call it the AIDS Stadium. See, this is me being more controversial now.
There you go. Sometimes you need a little controversy. Yeah, the UK is weak now. We are falling apart. Hell, yeah. That's what he's been saying, Steve, right there. Because again, Steve is from the UK. So,
well, a great fire saved London in 1666. It might just save us in 2024.
Depends on if the people are willing to set it. Again, I sometimes point to the movie V for Vendetta, which based off a comic book, but his line was, the government should be afraid of the people, not the people afraid of the government, and I think the UK could use that, but they're not. They don't seem to be willing to do the hard work.
Well, to give you some perspective on London, Dara, 64% of London's population is foreign.
Yeah, because there's Indian and then more than that. Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, a collection of minority groups, both white and black.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is, folks, Britain's capital city is under foreign occupation. Think of it like a war in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine key cities of the United States of America under foreign occupation, including your own capital city. That's an occupationary force. Your country is under occupation, especially if your capital is under occupation. So think of it this way. 1776, American Revolution, capital's under siege. You have this uprising, you have this rebellion, you have the Patriots against the Royalists, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Your country is under the occupation of the British Empire, and you had to rebel to gain your own country, which ultimately became a union in its own right. You have to use the same mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're seeing this a lot in the United States with certain cities, in certain blue states especially, where those states are under foreign occupation. Let's face it, folks. You have an occupied force in your land, just like we in the UK have an occupied force in our land. And if they persist, they're going to spread like a disease. It's as simple as that. So I've identified the problem. You will have to come up with the solution, because if I tell you, I will be arrested and then probably shot dead.
Yeah, the UK likes to pull their people out for
I'm amazed I haven't been arrested yet.
Misguided posts.
Maybe it's because I'm protected by Israel.
There you go. Or you have a pager lying around somewhere where you can just toss it at them.
Folks, do not buy any technology that comes out of Israel, okay? If it says made in Israel, chuck it into the sea, okay? If you have a car that's made in Israel, sell it right now, because it will blow up if you question them.
I'm still surprised people are buying pagers. That's like 90s technology right there. That's old.
But it's the Middle East, shithole, third world part of the world.
Yeah, they're usually more Stone Age than anything else, which is the funny part of why they have.
The Arabs are like the orcs. orcs, folks. They are like orcs. If they could think, they would have won by now. Their only strength is the fact that they breed like rabbits and they use, their physical strength and warfare like that.
Yeah.
That's their great advantage.
They outbreed their competition, as the
Hmm.
kids would say. Lesbian Nana coming after you. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. Oh, for the Colosseum. I was talking about the Where's that? He said the Colosseum
And
will be
now-
the world's biggest skate
And
park.
now for the scissoring contest.
Welcome, ladies. It's gonna be
My
like that.
goodness.
It's gonna be like that ending scene from Requiem from a Dream, and that was a horrible movie in its own right. But what? All right, what are you saying? I read up on pagers. It's considered harder to track as they can't be pinged like mobiles. Oh, okay. Well, still,
Oh.
it's older technology. It's funny how older technology is sometimes probably the better one because it lasted longer. It was harder to get rid of and all that stuff.
Because it was built to last. Because that was the profit motive in action back in those days. But the whole Middle Eastern war between Israel and the Arab world, the war that will never end,
Mhm.
because it's literally quality versus quantity, folks.
Yeah.
Because Israel, despite all of their influence and all their connections all over the world, do not have the power to occupy the entire Middle East.
Right.
They could barely occupy Sinai, which was the smallest province of Egypt.
Hmm.
They were overstretched even then.
Gee.
So there's no chance of them holding the whole Middle East. There's also no chance of the Middle East destroying Israel
Mhm.
because of all of Israel's connections with the wider world, especially with the United States of America. So you're
Mhm.
going to have this endless war
Mhm.
that will only end in one or two ways. Either every Arab is exterminated by Israel,
Mhm.
or every Jew is exterminated by the Arabs, neither of which will happen.
Yeah. What is he saying? They always blowing each other up. I'm losing track of who's. Yeah. There's
That reminds me of an interesting reference, Dara.
right.
I always like to say this, to confuse the algorithm, but I've probably painted a target on your channel's back now. I do apologize.
You're fine.
But here's an interesting allegory.
Mhm.
It's like Alien versus Predator.
Right.
Whoever wins, we lose.
It's true. And you get infected and being used by. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
One will stab you in the front, Dara.
Uh,
The other will stab you in the back. I'll let you decide which one is which because I don't want any algorithms getting any ideas. But the point is, ladies and gentlemen, the whole idea of whoever wins, we lose, it's a good fucking job the war will never end then. LMFAO!
well, that and money being made on war itself is also why it continues because profit is to be made off the bodies of others, which is the point of why war. But war will always exist. There's no way of getting around that. There will never be a worldwide peace, unfortunately, because we're human beings. We don't stay not distracted for very long, unfortunately. But anyway, it is the top of the hour again, and
Excellent.
so I think we'll call it towards the end of here because it's been an amazing 2 hours, and I do thank you for coming on. Ryan
It's a
Roger.
pleasure.
But anyway, so like last time before, go ahead and promote yourself in the most gentlemanly fashion, and I'll do mine, and we'll go from there.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching this episode of Darachat. If you haven't already, go and check out Dara's channel on multiple platforms. Links are in the description down below. As for me, you can check me out over at RyanRogerAthay on multiple platforms. I'm sure you will enjoy what I have to offer. And fingers crossed, we can all keep on going and keep on growing. And hopefully, we are not destroyed by tiny hats and towel heads. For that, we can only hope.
Or giant nuclear bombs, but we'll try not to go for the Skynet at this point. Because
Skynet D's nuts.
that's even the Welsh have some great ones. But anyway, whether you're on Rumble or whether on YouTube, if you wouldn't mind, yeah, of course, we will not be seen it. Whether you like, share, follow, or leave a comment. Anything that helps with the engagement is much appreciated because, again, guys, the more I get seen, the more people I can have on, like Roger or Tomby or Jack Tartar and so many others. Because, again, there are so many people in this world, and there's not enough time to have them all on. But I definitely am going to try to get as many as I can because the more perspectives you can have, the better one you get across from your own bias, but also the more you can learn about others in their life and kind of see the similarity versus dissimilar. And a conversation is a way to grow. So I appreciate you all. And if you'd like to follow find out where else I'm at, my link is down below, along with, of course, the links to Mr. Ryan Rogers' other stuff as well. All of his links I found are down there. Mostly just took them from your YouTube page. So I hope that's okay. But anyway, guys, if you want to have the same ability to come on, or if you just want to find out where else I'm at, link is down below. My Twitter X, my Rumble, YouTube, my Discord, DMing, and my email are down there. If you want to go through that process, just to come on, just leave a comment down below in either Rumble or YouTube, because again, this is the rest of my month right there. So you're on the 18th right there. I've got more people. I've got more people for the rest of this month, and I'm already starting to get people for October. So this is what I do. I enjoy doing it, and I enjoy getting to have people on like yourself, Mr. Ryan Rogers, and I do thank you for coming on. It has been a blast, and whether it be on your show or my show, I hope to have you on again, because it doesn't have to be a one-time ordeal. And of course, Steve says,
that's good.
was nice to see you again, RyanRogerAthay. It should like RRA or something like that, but it is your name. So, but anyway, guys, tomorrow, before we go, there's two things. One is tomorrow at 7 p.m. I will have on again UB right here. Tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern, I will have on UB Legend again. He's a great dude who tries to do things of promoting of positivity and all that stuff. And, he's trying to explore different platforms. He was trying to explore using Twitch for a while because he started out in Rumble. I started using both platforms at the same time for live streaming and stuff. So I've never been one over the other. But I do support more of Rumble more. But yeah, he'll be on at 7 p.m. tomorrow, and I hope you'll be able to join me for that. And of course, last thing, so there's a thing I do with my guests is I have a thing called Questions from Hat. And so I bought a hat from Rumble. I put some questions in it. Questions that anyone can answer. It's not that hard. So the guests get two freebies, and of course, if anyone from chat, because I'm only monetized on YouTube, I don't have enough. I'm only monetized in Rumble. I don't have enough for YouTube. So if there's anyone in chat that wants to have more questions pulled out, you got to give a rant. Even if it's a $1 rant, you still got to give a rant. So anyway, first question, not even looking. My eyes are closed. I'm just feeling with my hands like I'm making spaghetti. All right, here we go. Here's the first one right here. What does it say? As soon as I can open it up. It says, what is your least favorite word?
Can't say it.
It's one of the naughty ones, huh?
Yes.
Well, there you go. I respect for not saying the big words on here. I appreciate that. But
it was Jew, by the way.
Well, you can't say that. Never mind.
See, that's called a joke, ladies and gentlemen.
He pulled a fast one, like a magician with a magic hat. He pulled a fast one. It wasn't a rabbit, though. It was a yarmulke.
No, it was a rat in a tunnel.
Hey, Tomby. How are you doing, sir? Glad to see you here. I bet you got done with the chin wag earlier. But anyway, here's the second one. Let me just find it. Not find it, but feel for it. Why is it another orange one? I hope it's not. I'll just take this one. Never mind. All right, so here's this one. What does it say? It says, well, this is a basic one. Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Night person all day long.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's like,
I love the darkness. I just don't like dark people.
Well, I mean, in the darkness, you can't see them anyway. So
Exactly. That's what makes them dangerous, like xenomorphs.
that is true. But they're more the silent, deadly sort of thing until like the last moment, right, when they can get you. Of course, if it's a predator, you kind of can hear them, but they have that invisibility. So it is one of those things. I wouldn't want to be faced with both those. So that's why you carry a weapon of choice if you can. But anyway, guys, don't forget tomorrow, 7 p.m. with UB Legend. And of course, thank you so much, Mr. Ryan Roger. I look forward to our next time. And I thank you all, including you towards the end, Tommy, of coming and seeing us just talk about whatever. And of course, yes, I know I'm not as structured as most, but you know what? The fun is in the finding, and that's where it's at. So anyway, as always, as we end the show, always, and I use the same artist for the music stuff. So while you saw that first one by him, which is called Yoga Special, which combines sort of the third encounter clips from the third encounter and then stuff from the show US version of Whose Line Is That Anyway, I do use a bunch, and you can see the back end of things, so you can see the long list of stuff I have. But the one I end the show on is called One Day With You by Pogo. Hope to see you all tomorrow at 7 p.m. and thank you all again. I appreciate it. Have a great day, guys.
Bye.
And be amazing. All right, bye, guys.
Here we go.